Good evening to all. Warm greetings and best wishes for a happy new year in advance. It's a new series, new offering from ISTD. It's an young leaders series, and we have chosen one of our young members of the management committee, Yashwant Chauhan, as the series coordinator. So we welcome you to the first of the event under this series. So I'll once again welcome you all to this first event, and now I would request our chapter chairman, Mr. Mukesh Jain, to deliver his address. Mr. Jain.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. A very good evening, friends. I'm on behalf of Management Committee of ISTD Delhi chapter, welcome you all to this Young Leader series. And the first panel discussion of this series is on future of work, role of learning and development. I welcome all the panelists, Ms. Nikita Raut,
Thank you. Good evening.
Mr. Anil Santapuri, and Ms. Shruti Mishra, and our young and dynamic committee member Yashwant Chauhan, who will moderate the session. Friends, Indian Society for Training and Development, established in 1970 and recently is celebrated its Golden Jubilee. It's a premier national institute of training and development. ISTD maintains a large chapter network of 46 chapters with more than 8,000 institutional and individual members. Society is affiliated to IFTDO, USA and RTDO Manila. ISTD conducts a PG Diploma in Training and Development, a correspondence course through distance learning of 18 months duration for the purpose of recruitment to superior post under the central government and PSUs. And the 84th batch, the brochure has already been released and it is available on our website, istddelhi.in. Friends, during the Golden Jubilee year, ISTD is giving 50% discount in the life membership. You can enroll yourself paying less than 5,000 rupees for the life membership. For more details, please log into istd.co.in or istddelhi.in. I once again welcome all the panelists and moderator, all the past national presidents, chapter chairpersons, NC members, senior member and friends from ISTD, NIPM, NHRD, DMA, FMA, ISTD diploma students, faculty member and students from New Delhi Institute of Management and other management institutions. I wish you all a wonderful evening and joyful weekend. Namaskar. Over to Dr. G.P. Rao.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Now let me do this pleasure. As we have crossed the 100 mark, we are now 103 people present here. Let me present the moderator of today's session, that is Yashwant Chauhan. He is the Senior Manager Corporate HR with GAIL. He is a B.Tech. Then he has done unique learning experience. He is very passionate about people and business. He is an author and written number of articles. And he is a people and business led, is committed to driving business organizations. Yashwant has been invited and nominated to various conferences, seminars, webinars, at prestigious events. And he believes and he loves, in his quote, leveraging people for building a better work. With that, I would welcome dear young leader Yashwant Chauhan to come, take over, set the contest and moderate the session. Welcome, Yashwant.
Sir, thank you so much and very good evening, everyone. I welcome all the esteemed participants once again. Thank you for the opportunity from the ISTD chapter. Now, so we have, a great panelists, three panelists with us. Alo, can you just move on to the first panelist? Yes, so we have Nikita Raut, who is the HR leader, trainer and motivational speaker. She's working with Bank of Baroda for the past 11 odd years. And she is also the 40 under 40 HR leader. And despite being a blind individual by birth, despite that, she has been one of the youngest AGM at the Bank of Baroda. And she has had a number of corporate sessions, motivational sessions across the corporates. And she believes in leading her life on the principle of her blood group, that is B positive. So Nikita, we all draw a lot of inspiration from you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikita. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next panel speaker is Mr. Anil Santapuri. Alokji, can you go to the next slide? Yes, so Anil, in fact, he is about to join in a moment. So Anil is a professional in the learning and development space. He's currently working with CGI, and he has been HR 40 under 40 leader, and also Learning and Practice Award winner, for both 17 and 18. Anil, can you unmute yourself? Thank you for coming. Most welcome, Anil. Welcome to the session. So Anil is also on the as a technical advisory member on the Global Skill Development Council. He is also the certified coach from ICF, International Coaching Federation, as ACC, and he is a great writer. He loves writing poems. So it's great to have you, Anil. I'm sure you will add a lot of value. Thank you. Alok, can you go to the next panelist, third one, Shruti Mishra. So Shruti, thank you for your bio, quite a crisp one, so a lot of learning from each one of us. So Shruti, she is, alumnus of Tata Institute of Social Sciences. She did an exit diploma from TIS, Bombay. She has been working in the corporate sector for 11 years, and she's currently with Puma India as lean talent acquisition. She has worked in the past with the brands like SAP Miller, Arvind Mills, Wipro, Cummins India, and she strongly believes in education for all and right to livelihood. So fantastic mottos in life. So thank you, Shruti, for being with us. It's a great pleasure to have you also. So thank you, everyone. Now coming back to the session part, the topic which is about the future of work, or role of learning and development. So I thank the ISD Delhi chapter for conceptualizing this entire theme, because it is very relevant one, and we all understand that because of the pandemic which has happened, right? So the entire digital disruption, which was quite due to the L&D space, has actually got accentuated by almost a decade, I would say, because every month of 2020 has actually delivered more than a year disruption in the form of the L&D, right? So we are talking about the online learning, the virtual mechanisms to enhance the learning and development interventions, and also the work itself is changing, right? So there are a lot of flexibility which is happening at the workspace itself, because people are talking about, the entry of flex time workers, the gig workers. We have had the recent labor codes being implemented, right? So there are a lot of changes which are coming even on that account. So how do businesses actually leverage all those things? And also from the skilling point of view, because I truly believe that, we always talk about data being the new oil, right? But I would say the skill is going to be the new currency, yeah? So, so I think just keeping in this a very short context in mind, I would like to invite the panelists one by one for their opening comments on the topic. So I'll start initially with Nikita. Can I have your opening thoughts on the theme? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Yashwant, and a very warm good evening to everyone out there. Season greetings in advance, and it's an absolute pleasure for me to be here because I have a different sort of an attachment with ISTD. I'm also the alma, this is also an alma mater for me. I've done my diploma in training and development from ISTD. So it's a different sort of an attachment and a connect. So thanks for inviting me here. So friends, yes, I always say that Corona itself is not good, but there are certain things which happen good, and it led us to think and rethink a lot of our initiatives, our functions as such. And LND is also one amongst that. LND was not unscathed with the impact of COVID, right? And this gave us a chance to challenge our own limiting belief. And when I say that, I come from the space of a large public sector bank. That's Bank of Baroda, hosting a human asset base of around 85,000 people, spanning across different age, different geography, different background, etc. And before COVID, that's before probably March 2020, online learning or virtual learning, etc., was an alien for all of us. We always believe that online learning, oh, that is online learning, or even work from home, oh, that is just a norm for the IT industry or the modern small industries, not like for a big giant like us. And today that we are in December 2020, and we have all our trainings, all our meetings, etc., online. So something which was absolutely unthinkable a couple of months couple of months ago, became a reality today. And it's so interesting the way we emerged in the entire space, and so did a lot of other industries too. And I my opening remarks, I'll come back to what more we did in Bank of Baroda a little later, but I trust strongly believe that the way organizations are changing their business models or changing their operating models, I think we in the L&D space or the training space are required to, and have also to a great extent changed our operating model. The way we function now, or we L&D professionals are required to function. This has been a fathomable change, an unfathomable change rather. No one had ever imagined what we all are going through, and there is so much more. I think COVID will definitely go away by God's grace, but certain things which it changed will probably stay here. And we all need to get ready, be ready for that change that's come up our ways, and how we become agile even in the L&D space. I'll come back probably when Yashwant invites, and we'll discuss more on it. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Nikita, for your opening remarks. I will now request Anil to come in. Anil, can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashwin, and good evening, everyone. I think it's really great to be here, and it's always a pleasure to reconnect with Nikita and Shruti and Yashwant, you too. It's always fun, a lot of learning to reconnect together.
Pleasure.
So, and just following footsteps of Nikita, I also have a connection with ISTD. I'm actually adjunct faculty, and over last 2 semesters, I think 80 and 81st batch or 81, 82 batch, sorry if I got it wrong, I've been teaching OD and change management for the program participants for Bangalore. So I thoroughly enjoy those sessions and kind of contribute. So that's my connection to ISTD. So we are here on December 26th. It's like a vacation time, right? From Christmas to New Year typically. And still, I saw participant list a while back, over 120, I think 119, 120. As we get started with the session, I call upon all of you to start reflecting on the following 3 words, and we'll dwell deeper as we go in the session. The words of upskilling, reskilling, and metaskilling. And typically upskilling is what we, in an existing field, if I want to learn a small delta improvements, let's say I'm a Java developer, I want to become a full stack Java developer, that's kind of upskilling. Let's say I'm a instructional designer, I want to learn how to create e-learning courses, that upskilling. But reskilling is actually completely redoing your skill set in alignment with the industry and the organization. That's reskilling. And then meta skilling is actually, there's some human-centered skills which will help you navigate today the COVID situation, tomorrow something else. So I think we need to look at skilling from those three perspectives. And when you look at from those three perspectives, I think learning, both individuals, for professionals and for organizations, can actually make a lot of difference in these times. So those are my beginning comments, Yashwant. Let me turn it back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Anil. You talked about the meta scaling part. I really liked it. Thank you, and I'll move to Shruti Mishra now. Shruti, it will be great to have your opening comments on the theme.
Great. Thanks, Yashwant, and thanks to the entire fraternity of ISTD for inviting me on the panel. Unlike Nikita and Anil, my association is a little different with the ISTD, and it goes a decade back, when I was about to start my career in HR, when I had written my MBA exams. And I went to my mentor, my first internship mentor, and I said, listen, I really don't get the hang of what the HR thing is about. There's so many things in HR, and I really don't know what to pick and choose. And probably I'll not even complete my MBA. And that is when my mentor said that, why don't you do one thing? Why don't you try and do, why don't you go on the ISTD site and try and study about them and try and do a certification, if that's your area of inclination. You might, in the journey of this certification, you might also discover your own strengths, your own capabilities, and probably will make a career in training and development. So that's my association. That's how I started associating with ISTD. And yes, over my professional journey, I've had various instances where I could learn and I could impart that learning to my team members, to my colleagues, etc. Coming back to the topic for today, the role of L&D in the context of future of work, I think enough and more has been said by my fellow panelists here. So virtual learning has been picking up pace in the L&D ecosystem for many years. I believe Nikita has already spoken about it. Owing to the current pandemic, the world of work has also undergone a major shift. None of us can deny that. COVID-19 has accelerated the adoption of virtual learning culture across the organizations, and it has actually normalized this virtual learning. Earlier, it would be taken as something very off the record or very different, but now it is a complete new normal here. So even before the health crisis struck, skilling and upskilling were a priority for many organizations. However, as the employees now are expected to wear multiple hats in order to stay agile, to adopt to this changing and ever so demanding workplace ecosystem, skilling, upskilling, and meta-skilling, as Anil rightly said, has become a business need. The past few months have also laid emphasis on the upskilling on the transferable skills that can be remotely applied. Example test, let's say a tech-based course like a mobile app development, digital marketing like content writing, social media marketing, search engine optimization, data sciences are some of the few courses that comes on top of my mind. Which also means that the role of L&D is pivotal, where it brings the shift from remote accessible to remote first way of thinking in a collaborative ecosystem, keeping in mind the holistic development of an individual or an employee, whether from a functional, whether from a behavioral, or from a mental wellness standpoint. So this is what I feel is the role of L&D now in this context of future of work. So over to you, Yashwant.
Yes, Shruti, thank you. Thank you for your initial remarks. So, Alok, are we now ready with the first audience poll? Because I always like it, because when we connect with the audience, you actually get to understand the pulse of the audience. So here we have our first poll for the session. So I would request all the participants to select only one option out of the 10. The question is, select the biggest key focus area, which according to you must be addressed strategically in future of work for delivering effective learning and development solutions. So the number one option is anytime, anywhere learning, on-the-demand learning, basically. The bite-sized learning, because the way things are moving, people want learning in small pockets. The customized learning, the personalized experience of the learning part. Co-creating learning, how do you co-create the entire learning? So it's not about designing just one training program, but you're actually engaging with the participant to co-create it. Gamifying the learning, how do we utilize the tools and technologies to gamify it, to make it more interesting? Informal learning, in our lives, we generally go through the informal learning for the 90% of the time, right? It is only the 10% which is the formal learning. Then we have a learning by doing, so it is about, questioning skills, your critical thinking part. And then digitalization in learning, right? So that is about the technology part in learning. How do you build that mindset? And the hybrid learning, is it going to be a physical one or a combination of virtual and physical, which is called as, right? And learning the learning. So that's also a very different option altogether. That is about building the behavior and the culture in the organization of learning, right? So thank you. We are having good responses from the participants. I thank each one of you for great participation. We have almost a minute or so. So keep coming up with your responses so that we can have a very engaging discussion. Yeah, so far we have almost 45% of the audience who have voted. That's a very encouraging one. So I'll request the others also to pitch in quickly. Yeah, so we are almost past 2 minutes. So we have a total of 3 minutes maximum, and we'll try to stop it there. Yeah, so almost 50% of the people have given their responses. So I'll stop it over here because in the interest of the time. So if you look at the responses which we have got, yeah, Alok, can you share the results?
So they are on screen now.
Yes. Yes, so 25% of the people are saying that digitalization in learning is going to be the biggest theme, right, going forward. Then learning by doing, that is also coming as one of the major areas. And anytime, anywhere learning, because the COVID has actually made it, kind of a reality, I would say. It's an imperative reality which is going to happen maybe in a couple of years or so. You will have actually, people taking charge of their learning and even the content part of it, right? So learning on the go is going to be the key forward. So with this, I'll move to the panelists quickly. So Shruti, you are from a very organization which is into the sports industry, right? The Puma India, right? Yeah. And you have a lot of retail segments also as a part of your business, and you employ a lot of young population, young talent out there, right? What are the challenges which your organization is facing, and how you are tackling all these challenges, keeping with the current pandemic times?
Right. Thanks, Yashwant. So, in the current context and also looking at the times ahead, it is very important to strike a balance between efficiency and engagement. Okay, as in the current situation, we saw a work from home happening where the classroom sessions were not hosted, and we had moved to the digitization of learning, which we've also seen from the audience poll that seems to be the new normal in the times to come. So in this scheme of chopping and delivering these long in-person training sessions and converting them into this virtual trainings, the learners' engagement we found had taken a hit somewhere. Given, and of course, there were multiple priorities that an employee was balancing while working from home. There was also a dip in the attention span, and of course, there was a learner's fatigue which was setting in, because there were a lot of communication happening at the same point of time while you're attending. So we use MS Teams as a platform. So while you're on an MS Teams meetings, you have your mails coming in, you have your phone ringing at the same time, you have your WhatsApp popping out, and then you have, of course, your personal priorities, which you're simultaneously managing. So now, keeping all of these things in mind, I think we devised this very simple, 3 pointers to be kept in mind while executing any learning intervention. One was an emphasis on the content designing. Because in this virtual training environment, having a very ineffective content design or a lengthy content will, get very quickly noticed, and eventually it will also lead to a lower rate in terms of learners' engagement. Sorry, were you saying something? Okay.
Yes, please continue. Please continue.
Okay. All right. So now what happens when there is a lower rate of learners engagement? There's definitely a drop in the training effectiveness. Next time, nobody would want to come and attend your training, right? So one very important aspect was to create a meaningful, bite-sized, what you said before, and an engaging content, so that people are more engaged to what they are learning. Second was, of course, credentialing these trainings. Now, unlike many edtech companies, as an organization, we cannot have plethora of tie-ups with universities, right? Because these edtechs will have a certification by Harvard or by Stanford or UC Berkeley. They have this as a business model. But for us, this is not a business model. So making sure that an employee feels that what's it in for me, right? When they come and attend a learning intervention is very, very important. So we tried and put certain points. Now that we are in the process of appraisals, we've also involved our the training scores, the learning scores as a very important part while taking the appraisals into consideration, or while taking the promotions into consideration. So earlier it might have been a good to have score to be, but now it's a need to have score to be when it comes to your internal progression. Also, we realized that it is very important to have a star par, if I may say in a little layman's term, when it comes to delivering this content and the training. So the effectiveness of the speaker is as important as the effectiveness of the content. So we roped in a lot of in-house trainers who had executed a lot of learning interventions. Having said that, while this was being done on the content and the training piece and the pedagogy, we also looked at gamification of some of our training content. Now the employee age in Puma is very young. They are all these Gen Zs, right? An average age in a retail store is 27 years, which is very, very young crowd. How do I keep them involved in what they're doing, right? So we tried and gamified the content, whether it's creating a content for hiring managers or the first time managers who will be hiring, or whether it's about product training. We tried and bring in some kind of automation, some kind of element of competitiveness. We used a tool called Kahoot to do a lot of our quizzes in the retail stores, which also helped in two aspects. One, the retention of the content, and secondly, it created a competitive spirit amongst the store teams, because the store in South was competing with the store in West or store in North, and then we would publish a bi-weekly leaderboard. So that also involved a lot of competitiveness, which accelerated the learning in this young workforce that I have.
Yeah, thank you, Shruti. Nikita, I'll just come back to you now for a question here. So
Sure.
My question to you would be that you are from Bank of Baroda, right? And you are actually a very large workforce, having multi-generation of people working in your organization, right? So we generally have all these different MNCs and private companies, people talking about the L&D part of it, right? But I would like to understand from your point of view, how challenging it is for you to actually kind of drive that learning in your organization, because you have people from very different set of employees who are working in your organization.
Right.
So how do you do that learning in your organization?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So very interesting question. I can actually talk hours about it, but obviously I'll adhere to the time. So yes, Yashwant has very rightly said that we are a huge organization. And then I would also like to mention that you all must be aware we underwent a three-way merger where Dena Bank and Vijaya Bank merged into us in April 2019. So a lot of integration culturally, functionally was required then also. And the icing on the cake happened was the COVID. right? So you can imagine the challenges that was faced by the L&D vertical, of course, the entire bank, the HR more so, and more specifically the L&D vertical, because we even had to take care of the cultural integration. Now, as I was telling in my opening remarks, that this online and virtual thing was very, very alien as a concept to us. In fact, we do have a very robust learning management portal in the bank called as christened as Gurukul. So we had to literally follow up and request people to even complete their mandatory courses, like prevention of sexual harassment, etc., etc. Even just to get those mandatory courses completed by the employees was a huge task for us. And then just imagine, shifting the entire training online. In April, we actually, all of us, we trainers and learning heads, were really clueless as to how is it going to happen. We gradually started, as Shruti also mentioned, we also use MS Teams. We gradually started the trainings, short trainings, and then we kept on improvising. The biggest challenge we thought, and we still are facing is, and I'm sure everybody would agree, is in a virtual training setting, initially in the classroom setting, you would always have to follow up with the attendance, whether people are joining or not joining. Here in the virtual space, more than attendance, you have to take care or be conscious about the attention. So attention is a bigger challenge now than attendance. So how do you actually engage the people? And then, since our bank, our sector comes under essential services, we did not have the option of 100% work from home. Our banks' branches had to remain open. We had to serve the customers, and attending training while a customer is in front of you was another big challenge, because here we also had to deal with the psychology of the relieving manager or the reporting manager. In a classroom training, when you invite somebody for training, he's physically away from the workplace, right? But in this case, though our guidelines mention that when a person is on training, he's supposed to not come to the branch and attend the training from home. But here the line manager would conflict and say, "Mere paas staff nahi hai." So, he would tell his nominated participant, "क्या रे कुछ नहीं होता ये online training, तुम mobile on करके बैठ जाओ और साथ में customer attend करो." So we had to actually sensitize our managers, sensitize our line functionaries to give that adequate importance to the training. Having said that, traveling from that arena, that space in April, we gradually progressed. People started accepting. We did some engagements online. And now I'm happy to share with all of you that leave aside the officers or the educated people, we also have a set of around 8,000 to 9,000 persons who are working in the subordinate cadre. Basically, in a simple terms, they are working as peons in our bank, and they are hardly educated, so leave aside being tech savvy. Now, as per the constitution or as per the statutory requirement, when that category of employees are going for further promotion, they are required to undergo a mandatory pre-promotion training before the promotion exam, right? That's the government guideline. So how do we actually, get these people do their pre-promotion training was another big challenge, and we were actually worried how will they attend online. And I'm really happy to share that just very recently, I think 2 days ago, we all concluded across India, we have around 22 training establishments, and we all concluded very successfully the online training for these subordinate staff. And the first day, it was a 7-day training. The first day was a big challenge, getting them to join on Microsoft Teams, teaching them how to actually log in, mute, unmute, etc. And to the 7th day, when I took the feedback as a learning head of one of the centers, the response was absolutely encouraging, and everybody was so comfortable. Like my faculties, they had to even teach subjects like maths and reasoning online by using the whiteboard or other equipment. So it was very interesting, and it's a matter for us, a matter of pride for us that we could actually do
Great.
this. Yeah. So
Nikita, thank you so much for your inputs. I'll quickly move to
sure.
Anil now. Anil, so I'll come back to you for just a question with you. So you come from CGI, right, which is into the consulting and the IT domain, right? And there's a lot of changes which are happening in the IT industry, right? The way you are working right now, there's a lot of drive towards the remote working. In fact, the company like TCS and all, they are planning for having their 75% of the workforce moving to a permanent kind of a work from home scenario for 2025, right? So given that context, how is your organization actually taking care of the content curation of the learning development? How you are creating different interventions for the same?
Thank you. That's a great question. So, as I start off, it's always interesting to hear stories from various industries. So, Shruti talking about millennials, digitization of learning. Shruti, we also use Kahoot a lot, so it was great to see that. And it's very and then Nikita again. It's always great to see how multi-generations, how multi-generational learning is happening. Thanks to COVID, COVID is accelerating. So it's interesting when the whole COVID thing happened. One of my friends said it's almost as if from a digitization perspective, we all went to bed one day in 2020 and woke up in almost 2025. We kind of accelerated 5 years into the future, so we don't have a choice. And another quick one, Nikita, I'll just point, and maybe if we have to come back to it, is the whole three-way merger you spoke about. I think we're going to see a lot of that cultural integration happening because of COVID, and that might also give very interesting insights from a learning perspective. Now, coming to CGI, Yashwant, that's a great question. So, just like any organization in, be it Puma, be it Bank of Baroda, be it CGI, our first, response to COVID was sustained learning. And then, the whole digitization of learning was a big focus. Then the second piece was, helping our managers and members, lead virtually or, work virtually. So for CGI, it's very interesting because we're an IT company, not like a retail or a bank. Just one, within 2 weeks, I think in the month of March or so, we actually moved completely from on-premise working to 98% of our members working from home. In some instances, it actually meant, unplugging the desktops in office, getting SEC permissions and everything, and then people actually working from it's a huge, and as people say, it's a great experiment, right, in this space. So it took a while for some of our customers to sign off on this, but eventually, health comes before anything else, right? So it's been a huge shift. What it meant was, apart from all other things, from an IT perspective, what it meant is the new or the modern IT worker is supposed to be potentially working in a hybrid, geographically dispersed, agile team, and we got a glimpse of it, obviously, with all the 98% of our workforce working from home. But also interestingly, this every year we hire and integrate almost 500 graduates into the organization. This year also we had to do that, slightly a lesser number than that, but we had to do that. And the entire graduate training, 8 tracks, 16 weeks minimum, happened completely remotely. And imagine as an engineering student straight out of the college, hasn't even seen an office premise of CGI, laptop sent home, and they're working with a training partner, who's training them. So we've never done anything like that before. So I think the future of IT is this geographically dispersed, autonomous and independent agile workforce. And that's the challenge. The challenge is how can we create those skills not just for our employees, but also in the industry and also in academics, because there's a huge gap in what happens in academics and what happens in corporates, right? So that's like, if you ask me, we all started working on it across industries, but that's a huge focus. Now, one or two quick stories from CGI. We quickly migrated. It was very interesting. We were migrating from an LMS to LXP, a learning experience platform, during the same time. We worked for 6 months on the project. The launch date was April 27th, and you can believe it, in lockdown, 6 months into this, we all were like, no, we don't think this is going to work. We want to do a grand launch of the new learning platform, invite leaders and do those physical, like a learning week celebrations. And finally, we took a tough call. We said we will launch the platform, and we actually curated content. So I'm coming to the question specifically you asked, and huge uptake from April 22nd till end of September, which is our financial year. We're a Canadian company. Globally, in the new learning experience platform, we had over 500,000 digital badge downloads, out of which 350,000 were actually from India, employees from India. The main reason we are able to do that, obviously, is technology plays a role, UI, UX plays a role. This is where I tie back to the question you asked, the poll question, the 3 priorities. People said digitization, anytime, anywhere learning. And also, I think the third one was, I made a note quickly, learning by doing. Yeah. So it's all aligned to that. So then the trick was, to reskill our workforce, we actually curated 40 hours of content on emerging technologies. So there were 10 technologies of future, like AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, AR, VR, so on and so forth, and Agile and DevOps. So we curated 40 hours of content, which is a foundational content for anybody. You could be a vice president, you could be a software engineer, it doesn't matter. We wanted to based on everyone from a reskilling perspective. So we spent a lot of time, almost 3 months, curating content in partnership with the 40 SMEs internally, and also in partnership with NASSCOM and Future Skills. And we did not just launch a platform, we actually launched the curated content. And as I speak, as of today, more than 1/3 of CGI India, which is around 5,000 members, graduated from the program, and they're learning new skills. And there's another 7,000 members undergoing the program as we speak. So my short, and maybe if I have time, I'll quickly post the work we did in this digital foundations program is actually a case study in NASSCOM page. I'll quickly post the link into the chat. But my biggest learning there has been, you can have technology, you can digitize content, you can offer learning by doing, you can offer anytime, anywhere learning, but you have to curate content and make it role specific. And that's when people will head up. So that's my big takeaway. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Anil. Thank you for those inputs, really exciting ones. Shruti, you have something to add quickly, and so that I'll move to the next one then.
Yes, so just as Anil was talking about Kahoot, I also remembered, I think one of our teams had created this, again, it comes to gamification because that's probably the flavor for us. But we created something like a board game, okay? And the store teams would be made into small groups. So of course, our bigger stores have, let's say 12 to 13 employees. And then we would have a pair, or let's say 3 people in a team, and we would play it like a board game. So it's a very simplified version of a Monopoly or Ludo that we used to play in our childhood, right? And with every stop, they have to talk about the trainings, and they have to talk about a product, or they have to exhibit a role play, because in stores, role play is very, very important. And it is also, I think, one of the meta skills nowadays is also to understand the business pain, right? To understand the customer perspective and the business pain. So, you do a role play, and the other team members actually evaluate you and let you proceed on the board. So, it's like a small competition within the stores, but it was highly engaging, and we realized that the retention of the content was much higher compared to how we used to do earlier. So, this was one of the benefits that we reaped.
Wonderful. Shruti, in fact, you rightly mentioned gamification is going to be the key, because it actually excites you as a learner, and then you have different levels of learning, right? So one level you have passed, you move to the next one. So that keeps you engaged, and that's really wonderful that your organization is also moving into that direction. I'll quickly now go to Alok. Are you there?
Yes, Mr. Yes, sir.
Yes. So Alok, can we have a second poll? We need to engage with the audience once again. They have been waiting for a long time, so we'll again connect with them. Yes, so my question, the next one is, the poll is, looking ahead, what according to you is going to be one major challenge for learning and development professionals? So there are so many, various difficulties or challenges which the L&D professionals are facing at large, right? So the first option is dealing with change, the change management part of it, because there's a lot of disruption happening, the merger and acquisition, the technology disruption, etc. Then second is about the developing leaders. How do you develop the leaders, effective leaders for the future? Engaging with the learners. So we talked about the gamification part of it. How do you engage with the learners, especially in the virtual environment? Then fourth is about the delivering consistent learning, because there are organizations which are having a very diverse and geographically spread workforce, right? So once you design a program, how do you make sure that that is consistent across the geographies? Then it is about the training skill application, So how do you ensure that the skill which is being learned by the learners is actually getting applied in the real business scenario? And then seventh option is about the conflict management. The conflict management is one of the key skills, which is there, and which L&D professionals are facing it as a challenge. So that's a very important area, because ultimately, if you improve on that, it can improve your productivity and also your ease of doing business, right? Then the eighth option is about the evaluating learning effectiveness. How do we ensure that we have an effective learning, right? So how do we measure the ROI part of it? And maximizing the learning effectiveness and delivering and demonstrating the value to top leadership. Because as a L&D professional, it's very important to have that influencing ability to gain the buy-in from the top management, right? And last is about adopting learning delivery for next generation. So how do we transit as an organization to the changing dynamics of the workforce? So that's what future work is all about, right? So these are our options. And Alok, can you again just show it on the screen, the results part of it? Yes. Yeah, so far we have almost 44% people voting. So thank you for your energetic responses. So it's end of the poll, and we have all the results. So I'll just share with you. So the number one area which is coming as a challenge is engaging with learners, and that's a very critical one, because we have virtual working which is happening right now. So it's quite difficult actually for learning and development professionals to engage with the learners, right? There are so many challenges because of the work-life balance and digital fatigue, etc., right? And then it also highlights about the dealing with change, so kind of change which COVID has unfolded in front of our eyes, right? So how do you manage such kind of a change? Also the resilience management, emotional intelligence, adversity, thriving in the new business and all, right? So I think these are some of the major areas which are coming. And the third one is maximizing learning effectiveness. How do we ensure that the learning which we are delivering is actually effective? Yeah. So that is actually making the impact on the bottom line and the top line, right? So thank you, participants, for your energizing responses. I would now like to go to my panelist. While we are talking about the great things about learning and development spaces, experiencing which was due to the L&D space, right? And because of the COVID, as I mentioned initially, that it has actually accentuated the entire disruption in terms of the digitalization of the learning, right? So that's a great part about it, right? But I like to highlight upon the digital divide. Now let me just go back to the World Economic Forum recent report, which talks about the fact that 50% of the skills in coming 5 years are going to be eradicated. So we are not just talking about creating a learning and development program. We are talking about creating as a culture, right? So every 5 years we will have to replace those 50% skills once again. So we are talking about learning with the scale and the size and the speed, right? That's one part. Second is about, the second aspect, which is from the perspective of, the right to education. You must have seen that in the education industry right now, there are a lot of, actually disruption which have happened. People are going online. There are smart classes which are happening. Amazing things are happening. But at the same time, we also have to keep in mind that the internet connection, right, across the country is not that great, right? We have almost penetration of more than 90% of the mobile devices in the country, but the internet connection, the strong broadband connection, is hardly even 30%, right? Now, how do you take care of that 70%, which is falling into that digital divide? Let's talk about the devices part. In any household, right, you might have a child who is having a particular mobile phone, but that might not be a smartphone. Even if it is a smartphone, it might be available with the parents, right? And it might not be available for the child to actually avail the services from that device. Third is about the electricity, right? You are aware that the kind of infrastructure which we are having, right? So there would be the electricity cuts which are happening. And generally that happens post morning times, which is actually the learning time for the kids, right? So how do you look at this entire scenario of digital divide? And so I would like to understand from your perspective. And why it is important is that when we are talking about the entire learning part of it, it has a clear linkage with the Sustainable Development Goals. Goal number 3 talks about quality of education, education for all, right? How do we build institution through the learning and development? Goal number 16. How do we ensure that decent and economic growth is happening along with the working condition of learning, right? So just your thoughts, any one of you can comment upon that. Thank you.
Yashwant, Anil here, I'll start.
Sure.
Are you able to hear me? No, this is it's a big topic and it's very close to my heart too. So thanks for bringing it up. So I'll start on a lighter note. So, this morning with my family, I was driving down from Bangalore to Hyderabad. And if any one of you have been through that route, so not midway, but 1/3 along the way, there is the city called Anantapur, where Kia Motors has a factory, huge factory. If you're actually driving at 100 kilometers per hour, you keep seeing the factory on the right-hand side for almost 5 minutes. Huge Kia Motors factory setup. So my 8-year-old son was sitting next to me, and I was like, see how big the factory is, see how much work might be happening there. There are like thousands of cars parked there, the new cars, right? So, and my son just just looks at it and says, why do they need so many people to work? Why do they need a CEO and a CLO? They could just hire more robots to do the work instead of people. He made just an offhand comment, which is where the whole world is going, right? I mean, it's and that's what the World Economic Forum, the whole. I mean, obviously, we should not worry about robots yet, but yeah, it's coming around the horizon. But going back to the World Economic Forum report, Yashwant, you spoke about, the whole. Any piece of work which can be automated is getting handed out to the machine. So I think we're almost at the 49-51% kind of a ratio where any automated piece of work across industries is going to get automated. So which means we need to constantly upskill ourselves or reskill ourselves. And the new numbers, which again you were citing, was in next 5 years, there'll be around 87 million roles globally will get displaced. Either means people who lose their jobs or then move to a different roles, will create 113 million roles. So that's a good news, right? So you have more roles created than the number of roles you will lose. From that side, it's a good story. But the bad story is the people who are getting displaced might not be ready for the new roles. And that's a big challenge. That's where you hit the nail on the head, the whole digital divide piece. And even before we talk about the digital divide and the access to internet, again, citing back the World Economic Forum report, even during COVID, women and young workforce across industries actually suffered job losses compared to others. So if we don't tackle this issue now, and the divide as of now is less, but it can actually lead to a huge divide where, across generations, it could be impacted. So So therefore, my broad headline comment is we need to look at digital talent of India itself, right from schools and kids. So we need to ensure, as you rightly said, they have access to the right skills, right infrastructure, and that's going to be huge game changer. And I think we're not doing enough, and that's why we need to think beyond the organization, think of the future talent, think of the next generation talent, and think socially too. And that's where the whole story comes together. Be it the Nikita, sorry for use of the word, be it the peons in Bank of Baroda, or be it the retail employees standing in the frontline staff, or be it the software engineers in CGI. We need to, if we just expand these three to the entire workforce, structured in India, I think there's a huge amount of work we have to do, and we're just scratching the surface. So
absolutely, absolutely. So thank you, Anil, for that input. Wonderfully said that we have to take care of the entire ecosystem. Very, very important one, because people who are actually facing the poverty situation, right? It is not because that we don't have job, but the people themselves are not employable enough, right? So how do you build those skill building, and they talked about the reskilling and the upskilling, right? So these are going to be the keywords, yeah. Shruti, just your quick comments on this.
Thanks, Yashwant. I think it was quite insightful from Anil every time to understand the statistics of the entire problem statement. A very pertinent question, Yashwant, because the ecosystem is not going to be the same everywhere. While technology has been a great equalizer for few of us, it has also created a huge divide, what you rightly said. We had seen a lot of reverse migration happening in the early part of this year once the lockdown had commenced and people had gone back, had lost livelihoods. While people are resuming work, it is not the same scenario as it was before. I feel a very important role has to be played by the government Skill India programs which have been launched across the country. There has to be a more public partnership with the Gram Panchayat, with the grassroots level organizations, with the NGOs, which can facilitate this training module to the last mile here. We also need to have more edtech companies which can build in the content which can work on various bandwidths, because the internet bandwidth in, let's say, my hometown being Allahabad in UP is definitely not the same what I experience here in Bangalore, where I am working right now, right? So making sure that the digital divide is bridged through these edtech companies by creating content which is vernacular, content which is accessible across all bandwidths, and which is also optimized for the resolution or technical specifications of the mobile phones used by the people at that level, right? So I think this is a very important role and a very big project, if I can say it from that perspective, for a lot of these startups which are coming in today in the space of edtech.
Yeah, thank you, Shruti. Nikita, just your quick comment for a minute, and then I'll move to the next one.
Sure. So very good points by Anil and Shruti. I'll just take it forward. So I think keeping in mind all these challenges, and also the fact that now reskilling and upskilling is going to be more, on a frequent duration. We need to, curate contents of training in such a way where the training is short. We have the short burst of trainings, just-in-time trainings. And, the short capsule trainings is what I think we need to really look at now, which are more specific, more, as per the requirement, the immediate requirements. Like, for example, while my person is working in a branch and he faces some, issue in maybe processing a loan. So a quick 2-minute video on his mobile on how do you process this kind of a loan is what I meant with a just-in-time training. And keeping in mind the technology constraints, the bandwidth issues, etc., I think if we can, customize these kind of, quick capsules of training is what we need to really look at.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikita, for your responses. Now, I would again, like to go back to the audience because I truly believe that this is what really is all about, right? This session is all about, and let's go back to them. Let's connect with them once again. Alok, you are there. Can you just connect with the audience and help us with the questions part of it? There are some questions in the chat box also. I can take that, or if somebody wants to raise a hand, I can also allow that. Let me just go back to the questions which have been put in the chat box.
You need
yes.
any help? Let me know. Okay, GP Rao.
Yeah, right, sir. Just
You
a
need
moment.
any help? Because I have jotted down all the questions in case you need any help.
Dr. Rao, I would suggest you help Yashwant.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Question and answer.
Okay. Okay, Yashwant.
Sure.
The first question is from
Thank you,
Karanjit.
sir.
Karanjit, EdTech galvanizing L&D is breaking barriers from K-12 students to tenured professionals. What should EdTech firms do to resonate more with the learners? Any inputs will be much appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Anyone? Answer. Who wants to answer this?
Yeah, Shruti, Anil, Nikita, any one of you can take that. You want to repeat the question, or I hope you heard the question first of all?
So EdTech companies ranging
Yeah.
from the K-12 to the tenured professional, and what should they do more to resonate with the learners, right?
Learners, yes.
I'm correct. Okay, I think we've spoken about it, and I can talk from my experience here that the content is a key element. The content has to be extremely engaging, informative, and relevant to the users. A content which is a new age, because you can't have a 10-year-old content being applied to a learner of today, right? So the content has to be continuously revised. It has to be new age, and it has to be bite-sized, because people are facing a lot of what do you call a lesser attention span nowadays. They don't have an attention span what you would hold in a classroom session. So being that, secondly, the kind of delivery of the content is happening. Are you trying and pushing the entire content at one go, like a 1-hour module, or is it like Nikita said, like a 2 minutes video followed by, let's say, a audience poll, which I'm learning from Yashwant? I think that's very, very engaging here, right? So you have some session by the speaker, then there's an audience poll, then there's a finding, and you keep everybody glued to the screen. Yashwant, at least I am glued to this entire session, right? Because I know.
Thank you.
This is a brilliant idea, actually. I'll definitely concur with Shruti. It's a brilliant idea.
Great. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Yashwant, if you permit me, the next one is from Dr.
Yes,
Raju.
sir.
He
Absolutely.
wants a little elaboration on meta skilling. Can somebody help you?
Yes. Yeah. I think Anil spoke about the meta skilling part. So any one of you can take that.
I can attempt that. Before that, just adding to what Shruti mentioned. I don't know if there are any edutech people on this call. My apologies, but I think with the advent of COVID, what happened is, some edutech players were B2C players. Some players were B2B, and with COVID shaking everybody's business model, what I think, in my opinion, people, everybody's trying to be everything, a B2B, B2C player and everything, and they're losing their edge because the content is the same. Go to a Coursera or a Udemy or a Pluralsight or a Simplilearn. There's not much of a difference with the content. So please don't lose sight on your customer. Is which is in a way what Shruti was saying. Don't lose sight on the learner. Don't just spray and pray. And that's what I've seen a lot of edutech players doing. Find your niche, find your strategic audience, and then do what needs to be done. The other comment there is, even in edutech, players, there's a lot of, we tend to confuse between a learning channel, a learning method, and a learning technology. Goes back to what Shruti was saying again. What if the content is still 10 years old? I say I'm on LXP now, or I say I have a wonderful, a new UI, UX, new, mobile app or whatever, but the content is still old. So don't, don't mix things up between channels, methods, and technologies. First, get your content right, apply design thinking, apply empathy and find the right content. That's just a quick comment. Sorry if there's somebody. So
Thank you.
Coming to meta skills, in the second poll, the second highest rating came to something called dealing with change. Now, and again, Yashwant, you use the word resilience. Resilience is our ability to bounce back from setbacks, right? Think of, all of us in India would have played cricket or seen cricket, right? So, and we all start with a tennis ball or a rubber ball, right? You hit it to the wall, it bounces back. So resilience, your ability to come back after you have a setback, and it has nothing to do with whether you work in a bank, whether you work in retail, whether you work in IT, or whether you work in a school, university, doesn't matter. It's a very human skill, and that's an example of a meta skill. Other example of a meta skill which is becoming very relevant these days is learning agility, our ability to learn new topics in an accelerated way. That's another example of a meta skill. The third, and these meta skills cut across industries. It doesn't matter. They're transferable. I think Nikita Shruti was saying right in the beginning about transferable skills. Meta skills are always transferable. Let's say a third example is emotional intelligence. Now, with so much change happening, I'm able to build self-awareness and then build sense of calm to people around me. And it has nothing to do with my role, nothing to do with my skill or experience, right? That's another example of a meta skill. The fourth example I'll give of a meta skill is systems thinking. And Yashwant, you spoke about think ecosystem. Think about the digital talent. If I think end to end you could be a TA leader, you could be a talent acquisition leader, you could be a L&D leader, you could be HR leader. But can you see the entire talent pipeline together, end to end, your supply demand? That's systems thinking. So these four examples, I would say, are a good place to start from a meta skills. If I'll summarize: emotional intelligence, learning how to learn; resilience, and for example, coaching is also a meta skill, and something as simple as listening to people could be a meta skill to begin with.
Wonderful. Thank you. Rao sir, I'll just request for your permission, sir. So we have, some of the other people who have given us, send us a question through the registration part, right? So I would like to include one question from there, with your permission.
Please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So Manvi Gupta from IMI Chandigarh, she has written a question that, do you believe that, the digital learning programs or the virtual learning programs are as effective as the physical learning programs, the classroom learning programs? So any one of you can just quickly comment on that.
Okay, I think I'll like to take that. Nikita here.
Sure, Nikita, sure.
So very pertinent question, and we keep debating about this every day. So I think there are two things here. One is the kind of program that you're taking, and second is the way you engage your people in a virtual environment also. Like, just to give you an example here, we do a program in a bank which is called Life Begins at 60. Now, this program is basically for all those people who are retiring or superannuating from the bank service in a particular month. On the last Saturday of that month, we do a program where we talk to them about, how do you lead your life post-retirement? And there are a lot of emotional, sentimental moments also. We invite their spouses, etc. So, this program is actually a celebration. Yeah. And we used to do this in a big way in a virtual, in a physical setting. Now, since we are all on virtual, we are doing this program virtually also. Initial few months, we thought that this program is not being effective virtually. But eventually, as we also learned, we training facilitators, we started including a lot of things. We even started including, in the virtual classroom itself, the performances, experience sharing, and then virtual cake cutting and all of that. So the experience came near to the physical one. However, we were discussing that, the moment the classroom training opens, this will be the first program that gets shifted back to the classroom. Similarly, when you talk about a technical program, like writing credit proposals, now that is a program which can very well be effective even in an online setting. So there's no black and white answer to this, whether it is effective or not effective. It depends on what kind of a program it is and how engaging it is, how well a trainer is able to control, or though at the cost of using this word a little harshly, this word, how well are you able to monitor your audience? So I think that's from my side.
Yeah, thank you for that. Now I would like to move to the next question. Rausaf, you have another question for us? Yeah, Dr. Rausaf, you are on mute probably. Rausaf, you are on mute. Yeah, no issues.
The next one is a very interesting question from Kriti Arya. How digitization in education has impacted the finance during the lockdown, specifically in higher education institutions? So have they lost out financially, education institutes, because of the digitization in education? Anyone wants to take this?
Mr. Rao, Anil here, I'll make a quick comment. I'll not name the institute, but I do know of engineering, an AICTE accredited institute, engineering and MBA institute in South India, where they're actually closing down their engineering offerings.
Yes.
Just made a decision because COVID kind of played into it. It was not the only reason. So I think definitely yes, COVID has definitely made its impact. So it's just a one simple example. I can't answer the whole question, but I know something personally. So
Yashwant, there is one last question from the chat box.
Sure.
From Arpita Ganguly. She says, building empathy, EQ needs mindfulness and acceptance of diversity is also needed to be developed. For building empathy, acceptance of diversity is needed to be developed. Needs to build employable skills to be driven alongside. What do you think? Needs to build employable skills to be driven it alongside. What do you think?
Yeah, Shruti, would you like to take it?
Sure. I think a very pertinent point raised here. Empathy definitely is required across all roles, across all hierarchies. Because whether you are an individual contributor, whether you are a manager, of course, the extent of the display of empathy will vary given into where you are in the position in the organization. But these being empathetic, being resilient, being a forever learner, being agile, have understanding the perspective, understanding the context of the situation, keeping a holistic mindset at all times. I think these are some of the skills which are important wherever and whichever role you are in. Coming to the employability skills, I think they are very specific to the role what is being targeted. The behavioral skills can be fluid, will flow across the roles, across the sectors, while the technical or the functional skills will be very, very much pertinent to what a person is doing at that current position. Somebody who's an IR industrial relation person would definitely need to know the employment laws, will definitely need to have that licensing skills, need to have the understanding of the government rules, about the advocacy rules. So this is pertinent. Probably a finance controller might or might not need these specific skills. He or she might be having a different set of skills. So that will vary as per the role and the sector.
Great.
I'll just quickly add 10 seconds to what Shruti said. So I think Arpita, it's a great question because empathy, EQ and everything you mentioned are actually meta skills. And the only addition, Shruti, you responded so beautifully, it changes from role to role. My only addition to that is, we kind of downplay some things which we don't know how to instill, because empathy for me, how I demonstrate empathy differs from how you demonstrate empathy, because it's a very subjective thing. We kind of downplay and say, hey, you need to empathize with your employees, but we don't teach people how to empathize. That's one trap we fall into. So that's where I think something as simple as design thinking, if we teach design thinking to all of our employees, members and leaders, the first step of design thinking is empathize. So how can we systematically give them tools and skills rather than just say, hey, why are you not empathizing more? Is I think what would do the trick to us. That's the only addition I would like to make to what Shruti said. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Anil. Yeah, you talked about the design thinking, very relevant one, because it's very important to empathize and ideate, test and prototype, right? That's the entire theme about the design thinking and keeping people at the center of things. Thank you so much for all your inputs. Rasa, with your kind permission now, I would like to go back to again to the panelists for their final comments on the theme. We are running out of time.
One last question.
Sure, definitely.
To all of you, in reading Future of Work, what is that one big change in work for which the answer is L&D? Anything you think a major change is happening in work for which the L&D is the answer?
Yes, thank you for your question, Rasa. I will request the panelists to any one of you, to come and just answer that query.
Yeah, so I think if you allow me to answer, I think it's the entire way. Yeah, so it's the entire way of work, the entire composition of work, the entire way of work. Like now we are moving towards hybrid model, we're moving towards work from anywhere, etc. So there is a paradigm shift there. The entire culture, the entire ecosystem of work is changing, and that's where I think L&D, gets impacted the most and will create the most impact. How your L&D functions in supporting this entire change is where the role of L&D definitely will make a big change.
Thank you. Over to Yashwant.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your support in between. Yes, so I would now like to go back to the panelists once again for your the based on deliberation of what are your final, your comments on the entire team, and you can share your comments very freely on that. Thank you. Just for maybe a 1 minute each. Yes, so who would like to go first? Anil, Shruti, Nikita, any one of you? You just need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yes, Anil, welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think, these sessions are good for us also because it helps us ground, see where people's minds are, the poll questions and other chat questions which came in. So, 3 reminders or takeaway. If you are, just as a professional, whomever you are, for yourself, I think you should think hard about building your meta skills, and that will make you a career longer and more relevant. That's my first key takeaway. The second key takeaway is if you have anything to do with learning or HR in your company, please think hard between are you doing individual learning or organizational learning? I think we're doing a good job with teaching individuals, but I think we have a lot to do to create an organization which can learn by itself, and COVID was a big shakeup. So, how much of your efforts are going in learning individuals versus creating organizational learning is the second takeaway. And my third takeaway is, think of ecosystem also, because, we spoke about the digital divide, and, we could think like the big fish happy in a small pond, whereas when the whole river is getting dried up, right? So we do think about the ecosystem. So, and do whatever you can, could be partnership with academics, partnership with institutions like ISTD, wherever you could give back and teach back and build digital talent in India. I think we should do our bit. So those are my 3 takeaways. Thanks, Ashwin.
Great. Thank you, Anil. Shruti, quickly, you can just add in your comments.
Sure. So I think I will say that we need to work on the triple bottom line like before, but of course the context has changed. So coming from a people point of view, the organization should have a culture of learning, which Anil has said, and develop tools and mechanisms which enable people to inculcate this habit of self-learning. Coming to the profit, we will have a lot of digitization, we will have a lot of gamification, a lot of content goes online, which definitely saves a lot of cost for the organization. Let us use this cost saving or cost optimization, which has been done by the L&D space, to work towards the community building, to making sure that each one of us gives our time, gives our efforts in whichever way, and select and choose a cause which is close to you and then relentlessly pursue it. So this would be my closure, my takeaways from this.
Yeah, thank you, Shruti. Nikita, your final comments on the theme. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. So I think we talk about conscious leadership, So now I think besides being conscious leaders, we also need to be conscious L&D professionals, and rather than mass skilling, now we got to focus more on specific skilling and customized skilling. We need to give what the persons want and not what we have to offer. And here the role of institutes like ISTD definitely is very, very important. And I think the entire success of a business now also depends on the efficiency and effectiveness of the L&D function. And it's we used to always say that HR has to be the business partner. I'll go one step ahead and say that L&D also has to be an equal business partner. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikita, for your comments. Just to from my perspective, based on the deliberation which we have had, so I would say that as we all talked about the ecosystem part, so very, very important one, because we have to keep in mind that the goal number 8 of the UN talks about the decent work and the economic growth. Now both cannot happen, right? If we do not collaborate together, right? Because we have to create that learning culture in the organization. We have to create that ecosystem for our people, right? Then only that economic growth can happen. So I think that's very, very important for us. And second part is that we need to be a lifelong learner. So we have to learn and unlearn and relearn, right? So that's very important. And as I initially mentioned that data is the new oil, right? But at the same time, the skill is going to be the new currency. So can we, adopt and, make an entire transition with the speed and the scale? That is going to be the key for the future. So thank you so much for these enlightening points. I really learned a lot. And now I would like to, give it to Rao, maybe just for the
I think looking at the time, let's listen to Professor Parveen Kaur for her summary of TKVS. Then we'll go to Dr. Sastry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Professor Parveen Kaur.
Sure, sir. Good evening, all the eminent panelists, guests from industry and academia, and dear students. It is my honor to represent New Delhi Institute of Management as the academic partner for today's event. Before I summarize today's panel discussion, I would like to give a brief about NDIM. New Delhi Institute of Management has been declared as the best management institute of India for industry linkages, third in a row by AICT, Ministry of HRD and CII, after a nationwide year-long survey of all the 10,000 plus technical and higher education AICT approved institutions across India under 19 parameters. NDIM has also been declared the best by ASSOCHAM, and having been declared best in India 3 years in a row, 2017, 18, and 19. NDIM has been elevated and declared as the first and the only mentored institute in India in the management category by the AICT and CII. Since all the panelists have talked about their connect with ISTD and gamification, I would like to proudly say that even I am an alumnus of ISTD. I did my diploma, 18 months diploma way back in 2019. And regarding gamification, me and my faculty colleagues at NDIM for our virtual classes, we are using various sites for polling, we are using Kahoot, MyQuiz, Slidos, Jamboards, Padlets for making the virtual learning more engaging for our students. To summarize the panel discussion for today, I would like to start with Mr. Yashwant and his punchline that the skill is the new currency, which is very important. Ms. Nikita pointed out that L&D space has to change its operating model. We need to become more agile in the L&D space. Short trainings and improvisations are a must. More focus needs to be laid on attention of the learners rather than the attendance. Trainings need to be more short, just-in-time trainings, capsule trainings, and trainings which are more specific and meet the immediate requirements should be a focus. We also need to be conscious L&D people. Mr. Anil spoke about upskilling, reskilling, and metaskilling are the key words. Training geographically dispersed agile workforce is a big challenge and a major focus. Along with digitization and use of tech platforms, focus should be on curating content and making it more specific. We need to look into digital talent, We need to think beyond organizations. We should focus on building the future, and we should start that from a very young age. We should not lose sight on the learners. We have to find our niche, and the meta skills and learning agility are very important. So close the discussion with building the meta skills, thinking about organizational learning, and thinking of the ecosystem. Ms. Shruti talked about role of L&D, which is very important from functional, behavioral, and mental health point of view. Ma'am, Shruti spoke about striking a balance between efficiency and engagement. In order to implement the training interventions, content designing needs to be done so that the learners are engaged and engagement is focused. Training and learning scores need to be attached with the internal progression. Effectiveness of speaker is very important. Gamification of content is very engaging for a young crowd. Public and private partnerships have to be explored. EdTech companies should focus on building content that works on different bandwidths, is more vernacular, and can reduce the digital divide. At the end, I would like to summarize it with that learning experiences are like journeys. The journey starts where the learning is now and ends when the learner is successful. The end of the journey isn't knowing more, it is doing more. You can't just take an in-person program and deliver it virtually. To make it work, you may need to rethink the content, the facilitator, delivery approach, and possibly even change expectations for learning objectives. It's important to keep the learners engaged. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Professor Parveen. I think, Yashwant, we should go to Dr. Shastri now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So may I request Dr. D.V. Shastri, Executive Director, GAIL, and Vice Chairman, IST Delhi Chapter, to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of ISTD to everyone who deserves. Dr. Shastri.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rao. It has been a wonderful session by the young people, of the young people, and for the young people. So it's a very good initiative, a very good beginning. And we acknowledge the contribution and initiative of Mr. Yashwant Chauhan in proposing this.
Thank you.
It was supported by the entire managing committee. So it is very heartening to note that a very large number of participants have connected in this virtual meeting, which encourages us to continue with such initiative in future as well. So on behalf of the managing committee of ISTD Delhi chapter, with our chairman, Mr. Mukesh Jain, our member, Mrs. Sucharita, and Mrs. Usha Jain, and others, I really extend a very hearty gratitude and thanks to one and all who have connected on this virtual platform. We have the past national and chapter presidents, some of the current chapter presidents, and other veterans like my colleague, Dr. S.B. Mitra, Dr. G.P. Rao, Mr. Ashok Deshpande from Nasik, and Mr. Deepak Bharara, Vijay Gupta ji, and all the senior people, and especially the young people who have paid attention to this important topic, which is of utmost importance to all of us, not only the veterans, but also to the young generation. And as Mr. Yashwant and the panelists, I was very impressed by the young panelists, that is Nikita, Anil, and Shruti. They have got wonderful talent. I was very attentively listening to all of them, and they are very thoughtful. I mean, their delivery was beyond my expectation, because delivery is not only the way how you present, but delivery comes from within. So it is the thought process which has impressed me. Each one of them has come out with original thoughts. It is not that it was some prepared PPT which they delivered. So that's very encouraging. And I would like to re-emphasize on what the panelists and Yashwant has also said, that learning is a continuous process, a lifelong process. Whether you are at the age of 18 or whether you are at the age of 80, learning never stops. And particularly in today's time, whether COVID or no COVID, learning can and should never stop. That is the only thing which is going to make us a winner, and particularly in difficult times. And Yashwant said one very good thing. He said that, no, not Yashwant, it was Shruti. She said that we should inculcate a habit of self-learning, because it is not that the organization will arrange our training and then only we will attend it. We have to inculcate that habit. And here again, as I am always quoting Bhagavad Gita, and today I will also do that. Krishna says to Arjuna, he says, Nahi kaschit kshanam api jatu tishthatya karma karat. That means, oh Arjuna, there is not even a fraction of moment where you do not engage in any action. So that means you have to act. But now whether that action is positive or not, now you can utilize your time in positive things, or you can waste it. So one should take a call where he or she has to spend the time. So it is always better to engage in learning and development. And the opinion polls were also very impressive. People voted for anytime, anywhere learning by doing. That is the best way of learning. Challenges and remedies in learning were very beautifully brought out by all the panelists. And dealing with change was also highlighted. And Professor Parveen Kaur, while summarizing, she said a very good thing, that learning should be converted into action. And again, Bhagavad Gita also says that yoga karmasu kaushalam, that is, skill in action is yoga. So आपके पास अगर नॉलेज का भंडार भी है लेकिन आपने एक्शन में कन्वर्ट नहीं किया तो ऐसा नॉलेज बेकार है. So in this context, I really express my sincere gratitude to the academic partner of this event, New Delhi Institute of Management, under the leadership of Shri Vishwa Mohan Bansal ji, then Dr. Tina Singh, Dr. Radha Sharma, Professor Parveen Kaur, and entire team from NDIM, which was associated with today's event.
Thank you so much, sir.
So a lot of thanks, lot of gratitude to one and all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shastri. With Yashwant's permission, we wanted to announce a few announcements from ISTD.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Mukesh ji, with your permission, can we ask the announcements from ISTD?
Yeah.
So good evening, friends. Good evening, friends. Thank you very much, Yashwant, and all the panelists. Dr.
Thank
Rao,
you so much, sir.
Dr. Rao, for helping Yashwant in a big way, and all the participants. So our next program, after at least 9 or 10 continuous webinars, we have organized this gala musical evening on 1st of January to welcome and celebrate New Year 2021, Ek Nai Umeed. So all of you are requested to participate in a large number and, refresh yourself. Next program is on 8th of January, celebrating Golden Jubilee year, evening talk on making organization future ready, the HR perspective by Dr. Veena Saroop, former Director HR Engineers India Limited, on February 8th, on Friday, 8th January 2021 at 6 p.m. So all of you, please make a note, block your diaries for ISTD Delhi chapter. And thank you very much, Dr. Rao and Yashwant.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
IT, you can unmute everyone. Let's create some chaos and enjoy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Unmute everyone.
No, you can close the recording.
No, it's fine.